We can't stop talking about the struggles of the Green Bay Packers offense, especially in the first half. So are there actually things they can do to fix it? Players they could play more, changes they can make in personnel. We dive into that. Plus, our pal Lily Zhao joins us to talk about this offense, Jordan Love, whose fault it is, all of that and a lot more on today's Locked On Packers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. And today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Lily Zhao on the show today. Zhao, you doing in full effect as usual on a Wednesday. We'll get to that a little bit later. For starters, this is going to be a question until they fix it. And so I want to talk about potential fixes for this offense. And I wrote yesterday for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, about early down play action and how that is, it's not going to be a panacea, but it can be a big way to create a little bit more efficiency in the passing game without having to throw the ball down the field. Though I think they should be throwing the ball down the field as well. It's just the early down runs. After watching this team on tape, there's a lot of issues. We're going to talk about some of those issues in this discussion. And the early down play action, definitely part of it. And one of the reasons is play action can help your offensive line. This offensive line is a mess. The run blocking in particular is a mess. And it doesn't matter whose grades you use, Pro Football Focus, you like Andy Herman's grades. The interior offensive line in particular has been a disaster, but Rasheed Walker has regressed pretty thoroughly. Now, I am willing to give Rasheed Walker the benefit of the doubt and let him play through some of these struggles because he looked good the first couple weeks, has not looked good the last couple weeks. Much like with Jordan Love, I'm willing to say, okay, you can play through it. That being said, the difference between Jordan Love and your left tackle, especially if David Bakhtiari is going to come back, maybe not your left tackle of the future, the degree of importance is just nowhere near the same. And so if you have a player who is nearly as competent, clearly that was a competition into training camp and well into training camp toward the end of the season, it makes sense that you would give Yosh Nijman a try, or at least in the next game, there's going to be plenty of blitzes. Brian Flores is going to heat Jordan Love up, is going to bring all sorts of simulated pressures and overload pressures and zero pressures. Every kind of pressure you can think of, they're coming from the Vikings this week. So you got to have a short leash on Rasheed Walker. Yosh Nijman, if this continues, Yosh Nijman has got to get an opportunity to play. The Packers have shown a willingness to say, we will just blow this whole thing up. Last year they did it. You had Elton Jenkins playing tackle. This isn't working. John Runyon Jr. on the wrong side. Okay, flip it. Let Yosh Nijman play. You got a guard. Just flip the sides that John Runyon is playing. Move Elton Jenkins back to guard. Yosh Nijman's going to play right tackle now. Zach Thomas going to play left tackle. And that ended up being easily the best offensive group that they could put out there. I can't do it anymore with Josh Myers. I don't think Zach Tom is the answer, though I think Zach Tom at center and Josh Nijman at right tackle is probably better than what you're getting right now, but it's not as valuable to have Zach Tom as your center. It's just not. So for me, I have been a John Runyon Jr. defender for a long time. Going back to pre-draft, I was a big fan of his. I thought, like, of all the guys in the draft, every time we did a mock draft Monday that spring, John Runyon Jr. on day 3 was someone I picked for the Packers. Was a big fan of what he brought to the table and have been wondering why they've been trying to replace him. And it has become abundantly clear to me now, this season in particular, because he's regressed as a pass protector and the run blocking is still subpar. So I am willing to say, John Runyon Jr., I know I've seen you pass protect at a high level. I've not seen that from Josh Myers. So JRJ, who got reps at center in training camp, you are going to have the opportunity to play center. Sean Ryan, who has apparently surpassed Royce Newman on the depth chart, was getting the reps last week when they thought Elton Jenkins might not be able to play. You're gonna get a shot at right guard. You were moving bodies in preseason. I think you can improve the run blocking right away. And JRJ, I think you're an upgrade over Josh Myers. Let's just see what this looks like with Rasheed Walker. And then you have the short lease on Rasheed Walker. That gets you to Josh Nijman. The offensive line sets up everything for this team because the run blocking has been bad and the pass protection has been progressively worse over the last few games. You can't run an offense if you can't block. So you have to fix that part first. Then I think you get to, and this has been part of the discussion, Zach Cruz, I thought, made a good point. Russ Uglum agreed with him. Our friends from Packers Wire and Packer Report, respectively, that there's nothing Matt LaFleur can do schematically when guys are not in the right places. And they continue to be in the wrong places. This is going back, there was a quote from Aaron Rodgers last year about how, look, we got to simplify things. Guys are not in the right places. You got 10 guys going in the right direction and one guy's not, and that throws the whole playoff. Football is unique in that way where you just can't have that. And that does raise questions about the coaches. It raises questions about the personnel. Are they getting the right guys in? The guys that can come in right away and understand, can digest the playbook, all that stuff. Certainly worth a discussion. But the early down play action stuff helps your offensive line. So even if you fix your offensive line, now you've just made life easier on everyone. So that is another way you can get this offense going a little bit more. One other player who to me has proven he deserves more opportunities, Dontavian Wicks. Every time he's out there and is given an opportunity, he seems to maximize it. Now, there was a play where he and Luke Musgrave ran the same route in the same area. I promise you that's not the design of the play. One of them screwed up. I don't know who it was. My guess, it was Wicks. But I'd have to go back and really dig into, okay, what was the concept? I don't know. I don't know what it was called. But he also had a key third down conversion. He seemingly has a key third down conversion every week. He had the play. Matt LaFleur praised Wicks, who's a high school quarterback, for in practice, apparently that run, the throwback to Aaron Jones has been more wide open. And so you can just loft it out there. But Justin Simmons played it really well. And so he had to throw it more on a line. He did. And you have a play, whereas if he lofts it, Justin Simmons probably, floats right underneath it. It's an interception. And for a receiver to make a play like that, that's a really heady play. He also blocks. He has that 13, that Allen Lazard in him. He drew the holding penalty on Surtain when Love tried to force a play on a really cool play design, by the way. If I'm going to, as JT O'Sullivan says, if I'm going to criticize the play call or the play design, I have to give it props as well. It was a cool play design. You move the pocket to the right, try and throw the big post back to Christian Watson the other way. They couldn't protect it. They couldn't block it up. So you don't have an opportunity to get it. But Dontavian Wicks. It is getting to me now. I can't even execute. Just talking about the Packers has rendered me speechless because it is at times just gobsmacking to watch them be in the wrong places, Elton Jenkins missing blocks on simple wide zone plays, like bread and butter stuff. You just can't do this. This just can't happen. It is by osmosis affecting me. Goodness gracious. He gets the holding call on Patrick Surtain, and you're able to sustain the drive as a result. He can get open versus man coverage on a team where not many guys can. He works back to the football when it's thrown to him in the middle of the field, understanding he has to. Like if Christian Watson works back to the ball on that 3rd and 20 or 2nd and 20, the same way Dontavian Wicks did on a 3rd and 9, it might have been completed, but he sat there and waited for it. Christian Watson plays too passive. Too passive. It's why the MVS comps started. He is a better player, has so much more upside than MVS, but MVS can play a little passive, does not play to 6'4". Rarely plays to 6'4", certainly. Wicks is someone that I would like to see on the field more because he does block and because he can get open versus man coverage. Is he the fastest guy on the field? No, he's not. But he's got great feel, and yes, he has missed assignments, but everyone has missed assignments. So I just want to see more opportunities for him. All right, we're going to talk to our pal Lily Zhao coming up here in just a second on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry about when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the music, comedy, sports, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets because they are the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Plus, all-in prices show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal with no hidden fees. And Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. And in fact, even an hour after it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Game Time, the last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. And football season is here. Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live at 2 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Hosts Tanisha Batiste, Jarvis Davis, and Kyle Krabs will break down every game on the NFL slate to get you ready for the team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, and more. Plus, get in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts, that's me, across the country who know these teams better than anyone else. Oh, thank you so much. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 p.m. East on our Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Joining me now from Fox 6 in Milwaukee. She's sick. I'm sick. The Packers offense is ill in all sorts of different ways. It is an appropriate through line in all of this. Lily Zhao, I have a feeling at least I know part of the answers. How you doing?
I've been better, Peter. I was just telling Peter before, I've had little sniffles and some other stuff, but I'm okay. I'm a survivor. But you're right. I like the analogy that you had for the Packers. It could be better for all of us and them. So I'm doing as good as I can be. How you doing?
I'm surviving, and that's all we can ask for, I think, in this world. Not to get too existential off the top, but let's stay existential, because I feel like we have to, given what we've seen from this offense the last couple of weeks. I have tried to approach this question from a couple different angles, but let me put it to you, I think, pretty plainly. When you look at the struggles that they're having, what is the biggest problem you see?
That's a great question, because I see a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I think it's just their inability to execute the basic things. I think, when you have players of certain calibers, they can cover up a lot of things, right? But I think with this team, because they're young, this is only game 6 for them in the books together. They need literally every guy on the field to execute at a high level for them to succeed. And when you have one guy who can't, that just befuddles the whole thing, and they can't really move the football. So I think just their execution is lacking there. And we can talk about Matt LaFleur, the coaching decisions, Joe Barry, et cetera.
Oh, we will.
And we will, but I'm saying that could be a contributing factor, but also they need these guys to execute on the field. You can call the perfect play, but if you don't execute it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and I was going through the tape yesterday and seeing pretty regularly where it seemed like they had the ideal look. This is something Matt LaFleur has talked about in his press conferences, and they have the perfect play for the look that they get, and it's not executed well, or there's one mental error and it throws everything off. And it seems like this team, even when they have the right play call for the right defense, they can't get out of their own way a little bit. We saw them on 3rd and 1 inside the 5-yard line, Josiah DeGuara, false start. Those are, now they ended up scoring, but those can be killer penalties. So I think we could have expected, right, these young skill players to have their ups and downs. We expected Jordan Love to go through some of these struggles. So when all that cashes out, in what or whomst are you most disappointed so far with this offense?
Ooh, I know that the easy answer would be to say Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, right? Those are the big two that you're talking about. That relationship has certainly not worked out to fruition, at least not yet.
Nope.
But I would say maybe as a collective, just the offensive line, we talked about how they were probably going to be a strength. Those guys have played together, and you lose David Bakhtiari for the year. I know Elton Jenkins was dinged up a little bit, but I think those guys on the offensive line have certainly not lived up to their potential. And when they can't, run block, when they can't pass block, things are just going to go sideways. And then there's a lot of false starts, some holding penalties. I mean, they're really not holding up their end of the deal here on the offense to really make it easy for Jordan Love. So I'd say that unit as a whole has certainly not played up to expectations so far.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. This was a big part of how we opened our show, talking about the offensive line. And it's not the thing I'm most disappointed in, because their run blocking was bad last year, even with David Bakhtiari. It is, for me, it's Matt LaFleur, because, and people, I understand that there's a lot of things going wrong. Jordan Love is not playing great. There's a lot of things going wrong. But I expect Matt LaFleur to be great. I expect Jordan Love to miss some throws and miss some reads. I expect Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs to run the wrong routes every once in a while. I definitely expect Josh Myers to get beat every once in a while. I expect Rasheed Walker to lose a couple blocks here and there. I expected more from Matt LaFleur. Do you think I'm being unfair to him? Like, is this kind of a no? Like Zach Cruz from Packers Wire was saying that he's not sure that Matt LaFleur could be doing more because they can't even execute the basic concepts. Am I being uncharitable to Matt LaFleur?
I don't think you're being unfair, because I think if he was on the outside looking in, he probably would think, oh, the head coach needs to do a little bit more here and just make it easier for his guys. And I know he's the type of coach to say, listen, everything's on me. I'm going to fall on the sword.
Always.
That's just how he is as a head coach. And even he was saying, he was asked, have you guys made any progress out of the bye week? And he said, apparently we made no progress, which.
How much have you made? Zero.
Right, which is kind of like you're not like you're telling on yourself, but you're thinking you literally had a whole week to self-scout and nothing worked. And again, he's not out there making the plays, but he's certainly calling them. And he's, even that Jordan Love's interception at the end where he was saying, it's a learning process. He doesn't have to get the whole thing, just get a chunk of it. Those are things where you would think that maybe he would have talked about with his team or whatnot, but certainly there have been some questionable calls, plenty of questionable play calls, and just timeout situations as well. So I wouldn't say that you're being unfair to him. I think if he was assessing himself, he would also say, listen, I really haven't been the best coach I can be so far this year.
There was a questionable go kick situation against Denver. It's 4th and 4. They're down 2 scores, and they kick a field goal to make it 16-3. Like, you're in the low red zone. Go for it. And if you don't get it, you're still down 2 scores. If you have a chance to go score a touchdown, this is a great chance. You haven't had a great chance all game. Like, those are the things that I feel like they're not taking advantage of, but they did last year, and they did the year before that. Matt LaFleur has traditionally been very good in go kick situations. If you're only good in those situations when you have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, then how much credit am I really going to give you, right? Like, if you can only do it when it's easy, then I can't give you that much credit. So I'm starting to waver a little bit. And I have been a huge supporter of Matt LaFleur going back a couple of years now. So it is frustrating for me, Lily. Do you think there are big changes that they need to make, whether it is, and please, the Sean Clifford people, enough. They are not doing that. Relax. Okay. Relax. Yeah. Whether it's offensive line changes, whether it is receiver rotational changes, whether it is a trade potentially, that is still something that people are very interested in. Like, is there someone they could go get that would stabilize this offense? We talked a little bit about on the show yesterday. Is a big change necessary, or is it patience, or is it both?
I think it has to be both, right? Again, it's still a young team. We're 6 games in. There still needs to be patience in that regard. But I think this team was talking about it. We're young, but we're tired of using that as an excuse for why we're 2-4. So they're not.
Which I'm glad about. Like, don't use it as an excuse. It's not an excuse now.
Right. So there's still a learning process. We talked about it's going to be an up and down season. So there still needs to be patience. But I do think that they have to swing for the fences here. They have to do something different, whether it's a trade, which is coming up on Halloween, that deadline, excuse me, because if you're looking at the team as a whole, it's who theoretically could they bring in that might be injured or whatever, or what else can they concoct offensively to put a spark in this thing? I don't know. I don't know if they have the current guys in the organization, players, I mean, to get this thing really rolling unless you bring somebody else in from the outside. And I think that might need to be the answer. And traditionally, the Packers don't really like to wheel and deal during the middle of the season, but maybe this is the year they have to do it, because where are they going to get that spark from? Aaron Jones can do as much as he can do. I was talking to him on Monday, and he said he was on a pitch count for that game, which made sense as to why he only had 11 total touches. He can only do so much, but where else is that spark going to come from? We don't know what Christian Watson's status is going to be. So maybe they do have to go out there and get somebody to really get this thing going.
More from our friend Lily Zhao here on Locked On Packers, coming up after this. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It would be great for the Packers in the trade market to be able to just go on LinkedIn and go, all right, let me find a veteran receiver. They're better than Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks, and they have at least 3 years of NFL experience. LinkedIn lets you do that. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 players on their stat projections and watch the winnings just roll on in, baby. Just roll on in. You can turn $10 into $250, up to 25 times your money with Prize Picks. Like Odell Beckham Jr. for more than 50 yards and Josh Allen for more than 2 passing touchdowns. Put those together, you've got your lineup. Put 4 or 5 guys together. You've got a lineup that's probably going to lengthen your odds, which means more money in your pocket if you hit it. That's the beauty of it. And when you hit it, man, I'm telling you, there's no better feeling. There is no better feeling when you get that last catch, that last touchdown, and you know that money is coming in. Oh, baby. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl to use the code LOCKEDONNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow on the show, our crossover Thursday with our pal Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings coming at you on a crossover Thursday. That's why we call it that. Yeah, and it is getting to the point where I'm starting to wonder, and this was the first game, Lily, when I went back and watched the All-22, and I thought, I don't know how they can possibly evaluate Jordan Love off this game. Because there were so many times guys in the wrong, on one drive, twice in 3 plays, they had guys running the same route in the same area. And I'm just like, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, it's just, I don't know how. And when this is the season, the biggest and most important thing they can do this season is evaluate Jordan Love. And if your guys can't get in the right spots, if you can't block anybody, then how are you supposed to know what Jordan Love is? So are you moved by Jerry Jeudy? Are you moved by Cortland Sutton? Like, those seem to be the 2, I think, most obvious ones. Like, do you think those guys move the needle in Green Bay? Is that the kind of thing that you need to see them do to get things back on track here? Because it's not about trying to go win the Super Bowl. It's about trying to evaluate Jordan Love and make some progress here. What do you think of those 2 names, assuming the price is right?
I think why not? I know there was some, rumor like Jerry Jeudy for Christian Watson, and we'll do a swap there.
No thanks.
I think I saw that somewhere online. I'm sorry, that was yeah, pass. But I say why not? I mean, these are established receivers who've been in the NFL for a while, and granted, it's still going to be, let's build rapport with Jordan Love, let's learn the playbook. There's still going to be that learning process. But that being said, these are veteran receivers. Jordan Love can throw the ball down the field to a rookie receiver, and then they're not going to be able to make a play. But a veteran might be thinking, let me try to draw a defensive pass interference penalty. Let me do this, that, and the other to try to put myself in a position to catch the football. Maybe that's what they need at that position to really help Jordan Love build his confidence, especially if he's trying to throw the ball deep, which has not been working at all this year. So I think if the price is right for those guys to bring in just a veteran at the receiver position, granted they'll be new to the team, I think that would add a certain dynamic that they haven't had yet. And at this point, I think you need anything to get this offense rolling, because what they have currently, it's not working.
Okay, so after the first 3 weeks, we were on the show talking about how exciting it was to see Jordan Love do what he's done. 3 weeks later, it's hard to feel the same way, Lily. But again, if we were wrong after 3 weeks because of the last 3 weeks, right? Then it's just as likely we're wrong now. So, I know it's hard to not be a prisoner of the moment. We all are human beings. We are most reactive to the things we just saw. We are lizard brained in that way still, especially as sports fans. It's just who we are. Where are you right now on Jordan Love?
It's like you mentioned, it's been tough to truly evaluate if he's going to be the guy for the future and not just for the now. I always go back to this example of, if you drop Jordan Love in a Brock Purdy situation where everybody is established, they're really good veterans, you have a good offense and a good defense, you're going to get a really great evaluation of that player at the quarterback position. Jordan Love is in a completely different situation. Everybody is young. There's a bunch of rookies. I mean, it's not been easy for him to really play at the best of his abilities if, like you mentioned, on Sunday, guys are running the same routes. There's miscommunications. They're not making a play for the ball. So they're making it difficult to truly evaluate, is this the best Jordan Love can be? I don't think so, because, again, I think the ceiling for him is high, but he needs everybody else around him to truly get better for us to say, can he be the quarterback for the future? So I think right now it's really hard to determine whether or not he's at that peak yet, which we know he's not. But I will say, there are some plays at interception. He does throw some interceptions where you're like, ooh, let's not do that. So that's on him. I know it's a learning process for him as well, but there are some moments where I know he would like to have back, some throws he would like to have back. But in terms of the overall evaluation period of him, it's tough because, again, everybody else around him is not really helped him up at that level yet.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I compared him to Brock Purdy on Twitter yesterday, and some people pushed back. But if you dig into some of the numbers, Brock Purdy actually has a worse on target percentage in terms of throwing to open receivers. He's more turnover worthy throws so far this season. And I would argue, and I think the example is great. I'm so glad you brought that up. I would argue if you need to be in that situation to be good, you're probably not that good. So I think, like, even if we took an example, like, okay, the Lions, they don't have the superstars that the 49ers do. They don't have Kyle Shanahan. Jared Goff looks pretty good in that offense. How would Jordan Love look in Detroit? I think he'd look better than he does right now. I think it would be safe to say. So if that's the case, then we have to be patient, right? We have to see if they can develop a little bit and find that rhythm. And if things improve around him, does he get better or does he stay the same? I feel like that's a necessary part of evaluating him, right? Like right now, with everything going chaotic, he's not a great quarterback. Okay. He's a high variance quarterback. Well, duh. Most players would be. What is he when the situation around him is like baseline? Like, I feel like that's what we need to see in order to say, okay, this is yes or no on Jordan Love.
I agree. It's kind of the Packers made their bed, and their bed is it's a young team with a lot of rookies, and that's what it is. I mean, they made their bed. They're going the young route, and that's.
Do you think they just thought they'd be better? Like, do you think they just thought the young players would pick it up faster and they'd be able to coach it up and it would all just be better? Or do you think, like, if you gave Matt LaFleur a half bottle of J. Henry bourbon in Wisconsin's own, no free ads, do you think he would tell you, yeah, this is kind of what we expected? Or he would say, I thought we'd be a lot better?
I honestly think that, okay, again, you have a Jamar Chase. Those guys are a dime a dozen. Ezekiel Elliott, those guys who really did well early on, they're a dime a dozen. But I do feel like this coaching staff really thought, hey, we have some gems in our offense. And yeah, they might be in their first year in the NFL or second year in the NFL, but they really can develop and be that, really, really good player for us. But it hasn't gotten there yet. And that's okay. But that's just what the bet that they made. But I do believe that the route that they were going, I think they expected these players, I think at this point in the season, to be a lot better than they are. Granted, injuries are not helpful. But I do believe that they think that they should have been a lot further along the road than we currently are. And because they're not, this is the situation that they're in. And I know Matt LaFleur is just struggling to find ways to make it better because you're talking about a mini bye playing the Raiders, who are not good. You talk about a whole bye week playing the Broncos, who are not good. And you kind of eggs in both games. It's whatever they're doing, it's not working, but this is the bed they made.
I think it's why you're hearing that they're reaching out, that they're trying to find a veteran receiver to bring in here and stabilize some of this, because they thought this was going to go a little bit better. I don't know, probably a lot better, frankly, than it has gone. And that's on them. So to your point, every week you come in and drop a little nugget that I'm just like, dang, that's so smart. This is their bed, Lily. They made it. And so now they got to lie in it. And they might be lying at 2-5 here right quick because the Vikings look damn good on Monday. We'll be back next week to talk about all of it. Lily, thanks.
Thanks, Peter.
All right. Thanks to Lily for joining the show. Always great to talk to her. And she's always got one or two metaphors or little nuggets or approaches to something where I'm just like, dang, I wish I thought of that. And I'm so glad that she came on to provide those little nuggets for you. Often more than one, right? The insight. But I'm saying there's always one or two. I'm just like, man. All right, back tomorrow. Crossover Thursday. Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings joins the show. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live on our YouTube feed, like after the game this weekend, you can do that on our Locked On Packers YouTube page, so you can stay Locked On Packers.